Um, Sorry, last couple of nights, and once again, I have to apologize to the viewers. I keep falling sick often nowadays, so it got delayed. Sorry about that. Um, um, if I recall correctly, you were discussing the concept of Visesha, unique characteristics, Visesha, as a concept which is very important for Tattva philosophy. I'm assuming that Visheshatva is important for any philosopher when they're trying to describe any property to be differentiated from other entities. I'm sure that it is important for everybody. But in my opinion, however flawed it is, Vishesha is very Vishesha for Tattva, in my view. For the reason, um, differences is something which every philosopher has attacked. Attacked means treated, analyzed, and things like that. Why things are different is a very, shall we say, not though not rudimentary, it's a very fundamental question. Every philosopher all over the world have tried to look at differences. From where does this difference come? Is differences a property of an object? Does it reside within the object? Does it reside outside the object? There are several different ways people have been, you know, started looking like some hippie and end up like my hairstyle, plucking all their hairs. Which is, in my judgment, having read multiple things, and in my judgment, I don't think it is settled. Everything continues to be just a point of view. Where does the difference reside? In my view, it is not settled. So every protagonist of the view will assume that his view is settled. That is number one. Leaving that aside, in my view, why I say it's very important in Tattvada is that Tattvada is one of the very few philosophical models in the world which treats differences not only to be real, they treat differences to be permanent as well. And Shrimad Acharya goes to one step further to argue these differences continue even in the liberated state in moksha. Though he is very quick to point out, it is a difference between distinction or something as V.N.K. Sharma would like to call, in the sense that the differences are real even in moksha, but it's a caveat. But those differences are not perceivable anybody and everybody. Everybody's cup is full, and therefore nobody will know that their cup is smaller size than somebody else's cup. It is only between Vishnu and the individual jiva. The differences in the size of the cup, the way I understood him, is that the differences between the size of the cup of the individuals, jivas in moksha, is perceivable only by Vishnu, whereas the individual jivas cannot perceive, because he argues that therefore there is no question of competition, there is no jealousy, there is no bad feeling, none of it. Though he does not explicitly say so, but I would like to infer that, because any conscious entity, if it perceives the difference with another entity, would start thinking. Good, bad, ugly, I don't know, but it would start thinking. If they're not even thinking, it means it's not perceptible. And I believe that it is not necessary to be perceptible in moksha, because the whole idea of moksha itself is to get rid of all the jealousy, competition, sorrow, and all kind of negative emotions which we feel in this earth. We have to get rid of it. If this has an opportunity in moksha, then it's not moksha. It's another planet like Mars, I would say. Therefore, I would assume, I would infer that. And in fact, tantalizing, this is what I use in my infamous Advaitha 2.0 argument, that in as much as it is not perceivable by anybody else, any other jiva, right? What is this notion of difference in moksha, right? Therefore, it is being done just to assuage people who cannot accept the Advaita argument of everything vanishes, you merge with Ishvara or Brahman, etc. They're not very comfortable with that. So to satisfy those people only, the Shrimad Acharya is arguing that, yeah, there is moksha, but it's not matter. It is made of bliss. You are different from others, but you won't know any difference, because you cannot judge anybody's cup size. It only God alone knows. Vishnu alone knows, and he removes all negative emotions there, etc. And therefore, in my view, he is doing the same Advaita argument, but in a very nice way. My favorite argument of why he called himself, nobody gave him a title. He called himself Madhu Acharya, because he desired to sweeten every concept which Shankara was delivering in a very harsh tone. He tried to make it sweeter. Therefore, he decided to call himself, of course, it is heresy in Madhva circles, I know, but I find it that way. He's going, enormous extent, in my view, to make things lighter. I have not come across any philosopher who is bending backward to make things easier and sweeter for the readers. Philosophers are supposed to be blunt, terse, and I don't care kind of fellows. But Madhvacharya is not like that. He is doing everything. He kind of belittles himself, in my view, for all the towering intellect and capability which he has got. He belittles himself, makes himself very small, saying, "Oh, I don't know anything. I'm only saying what is being told in other books." That is the strategy and tone he adopts. In my view, it comes not only of humility, um, but also not only of erudition and not only of humility, but also compassion. It's so nice to read it, frankly speaking. This is my view. I don't know what you are trying to plan in terms of discussing the concept of Visheshatva and how relevant it is, and how it defines Tattvavada is something I hope you will be touching upon, so that viewers will get some new perspective. And by the way, people continue to say nice things about you. They were waiting to hear more from you. And some people have even requested, ಅವರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ನಮಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. But I was assuming that your enemy doing Kannada lectures in Bangalore. So I thought I'll bring it to you.
I am not doing, but actually there are better and well-informed pundits who are doing that. So I'm kind of irrelevant when it comes to Kannada, basically.
Illari, ಹೇಗೆಂದ್ರೆ, in my view, for example, Haridas Bhatt ಅವರು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗುರುಗಳು ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. I see that he's too much above. I'm telling you. He tries. I know among the various pundits, he is very friendly and all the stuff. But his level is extraordinarily high, frankly speaking. The way you talk is, in my view, is very, very. You use the lingo. I'm sorry to use that word in this kind of serious conversation. You use the lingo of normal people. What we see movies, we see cricket, we see this. We do video games, we play, we read science, we read about Advaitha, we read Jaggi Vasudev, so on and so forth. This is our world, right? We are not belonging to the world. We means ordinary, most of us, I'm saying, maybe excluding a few of you who have spent lifelong quest, leaving those people aside. So for us, this language, your style, you're putting the PowerPoint, the structural diagrams is very amenable. So I don't know, I don't want to overload your life, but you may want to think of doing a Kannada series separately.
I say, let's get started right now. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Narasimha Akhilajnana Matadvanta Divakaraha Jayatyamita Sajnana Sukha Shakti Payonidhi Abhramam Bhangarhitam Ajadam Vimalam Sada Ananda Tirthamatulam Bhaje Tapatrayapaham Apadamaudiparyantam Gurunam Akritim Smaret Tena Vignaha Pranashyanti Siddhyanti Jamanorathaha Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om. So what we were seeing last is the concept of Visesha. Since you talked about difference and difference in liberation, right? So they are not, Visesha is not used to explain difference. Though the Sanskrit word Visesha means difference also, right? What is special today? What does that even? What is Visesha? Ivatyan Visesha, or what? When you ask that question, right? So the word Visesha means when you say special, right? There is the connotation of difference is there implicit in that particular usage. So Visesha, we are not talking about that Visesha here. We are talking about Visesha as an ontological category. See, when I say ontological category, right? If I ask you to describe the universe, right? You take any science student or any of what we have been taught, right? We will say there are few fundamental entities, right? You have mass, you have temperature, you have force, you have energy, that kind of stuff is there, right? And some of them are derived and some of them are fundamental. You cannot go in, you cannot reduce them into some other unit. For example, you cannot explain mass in terms of time, right? Or you cannot explain luminosity in terms of mass, something like that, right? Now, that is how you will be able to draw an ontology of the universe if you are from a science background. Now imagine you have to go one level further. You have to say, mass, for example, is an attribute. Charge is an attribute. Okay. So you say it's a guna. Then there is a substance where all these gunas, where these attributes reside, right? So then you have something called as an action. So if you look at the standard Nayayika model, right, or the model, the ontological model that is there, it is one level beyond the what we call in science as the fundamental units or fundamental entities, right? So you have something called as a dravya, substance. Then you have a guna, you have karma, and then there are differences that come in the ontology. So you need these different categories to be able to explain the world to a newcomer or to a kid or to anybody else. So that is why ontology is important. So the categories that you put in your ontology, for example, dravya is there, guna is there, substance, attribute. They are not interchangeable. You cannot you cannot explain what is meant by an attribute in terms of substance or vice versa, right? So they are fundamental, they are irreducible in one form. So any ontological discussion, right, when you come to I mean, it's not just in Dvaita or in Nyaya, in everywhere that discussion is there. What are your fundamental categories? Okay, so my universe is made up of substance. My universe has something called as attribute. It has something called as an action, karma, and then the Nyaya school says there are totally 7 padarthas in all. If you even if in the modern ontology, right, if you try to draw an ontology, people will say, for example, take your banking thing, right? You have a credit card. Credit card is a type of a card, or card is again a type of an account that you hold with the bank. Now you are a customer. Finally, it will go, and then you will say it is something called as a thing, right? That thing is there. Now that is the fundamental level at which all ontology starts there, right? And that's where we say that that thing is there, and then there is something called as an attribute. Now, what Madhas are saying, what Acharya is saying is there is some another ontological category called Visesha. It's a different thing. It is neither an attribute, it is neither a substance. Okay. And what does it do? It enables difference like behavior in the absence of true difference. Okay. So if you remember, you had said this was somewhat like Maya, and basically you are trying to fit in two illogical things by just saying that is how it is, right? So I'll share my screen. I think we'll be able to recollect that. But before I go there, right? So this has nothing to do with the actual difference itself. For example, the difference between me and this phone, right, or this laptop, whatever is there, I don't need Visesha to explain that. Okay. Similarly, in moksha, I don't need Visesha to tell me why one mukta is different from another mukta. So I'm not too sure where or you got that thing from B.N.K. Sharma or his book, but there is everybody knows that my seniors, for example, let's say I am one Indra level Jiva. Okay, I know that my superior Rudra is inside me. He controls me. It's not Rudra. There he is Sesha, right? He controls me. He's superior to me. He has more bliss than me. Okay, 100 times more. Whatever it is, I will know that. Okay, I do not understand that thing, but I know that thing as a number. I know it. Similarly, Sesha will know that Garuda is his equal, right? He has the same bliss, and he will also know that he doesn't and beyond putting a number, he doesn't understand how Brahma's Ananda is much more than anybody else. But Brahma will also have similar this thing. Brahma knows everybody else Ananda. Okay, because he is the one who is controlling that, and all there. We will come to the description of moksha later. I mean, but the end of it, it is not right that they do not understand each other's ananda. They know it, okay, but when it comes to a superior, they know the number. They do not really understand what it means. Okay, that is because there is some amount of what do you call, I do not know kind of thing when it comes to the spirit, even in moksha. It is called abhava rupa ajnana in Tattva Vaada, right? Now, so that has got nothing to do with Visesha. The Visesha thing is important because here, right, in when you are trying to interpret Shruti, you will get many cases where two entities are spoken of as if they are different, but you will also have some indication that they are not different.
Different. Okay.
Okay. See, simplest thing, right? I will take the simplest thing of two Shruti statements. I had one is which says, Anandam Brahmano Vidwan. Okay, one who understands Brahma's Ananda, Supreme God's Ananda, bliss. He will not have any fear from now on. Na bibheti kotaschana. That is the line that goes there. So here, if you consider the way Brahma and Ananda are talked of, it is like possessor, possessee kind of relation is there. Brahman possesses Ananda, right? But there are other Shruti statements which was Anandam Brahma, very clear. Brahma is bliss, right? So how do you, so here it is some sort of Samanadhikaranya is there, right? There is, they are both spoken as if they are equivalent, right?
Here, yeah.
So now you have the underlying assumption, or what do you call the thing for saying Brahman possesses Ananda, Brahman has bliss. That has thing implies a difference in some form. The Samanadhikaranya, right? It some sort of, it says that there is equivalence or there is equality, identity is what it tries to put out there. Right? I mean, even that is exactly the argument in Tattvamasi, right? I mean, if you take Tat, Tvam, they are both in the same vibhakti. Right. Vibhakti as in they are in the same suffix, they have the same grammatical suffix there. Right? The declension is same. So therefore, you will say that they are both identical. There is what do you call, a statement of identity there. And the moment you have any other declension, you get into the problem of, or if there is a difference in the declensions, you get, that is an indication of difference. Okay, yo Aditya, yoso Aditya. Okay, whoever is there in Aditya, okay, that person is the so Purusha, Sa Purusha, that guy is a Purusha. Now, which means that Aditya is different from Purusha. Okay, because Aditya is the location, is the Adhikarana where Purusha is there. So how do you, so basically that is the underlying grammatical rule by which you need to analyze. So when you analyze this thing, you will come with this particular situation wherein there is one Shruti statement which says Brahman's Ananda, another one which says Brahman is Ananda. So how do you resolve this conflict? I mean, are they identical or are they different? So one school of thought, you know which one it is. It says that, the one which says it is identity is there, that is the real one. The other one is Brahma, or it is Tattva Vedaka. It will, I mean, you consider it for now, you will eventually know that it is false later and so on and so forth, right? What Tattva Vada does is it basically gives equal value to both of them. And it says that that kind of expression, linguistic expression, is there in our regular commerce, regular day-to-day stuff. Okay, so that is what I had shown last time. And based on that, we all need to accept something called as Visesha. That is what is shown there. Yeah. So this is the thing, right? What is the difference between, I think I will need to oh no, 1 minute, just hold on. Yeah, you're able to see this thing, right?
Yes, I can.
So the question here is, what is the relation between substance and its qualities? Okay, so this is I have just tried to create something like this for the sake of this one, simplicity, apple and form and color kind of thing. Now, there can be two views on this. One, which is to say that, they are different. The substance is entirely different from its qualities. This is what the Nyaya school says. This is what Vishishtadvaita also says. Many of them, they go with this particular fundamental assumption that it is different. And it is reason for that. It is basically that, for example, when I say the rose is red, and when I say bring me redness, people will not automatically bring me the rose. There can be many other multiple red objects over there. So the substance cannot be absolutely identical to the qualities. The other side, which is what if you see, if you read Kant or any of those guys, right, you will understand that a thing in itself, right, they admit something called as a thing in itself. Yeah. We do not admit of that because there is no such thing. Everything has some or the other quality. Acharya says this thing, and this is, I think, where he is fundamentally different from other people. This is one of the cornerstones as to why we are a realist. Realistically, there is nothing which does not have any quality at all. Nirvishesha Vastu is not there at all. I'm not talking about Varabrahma and all those things. Let's look at our own world, our own experiences, right? There is nothing like you apprehend only a thing, but not its attributes. A thing is always there with some or the other attribute, right? And therefore, what we say is that, then the thing is, but you also know that, see, the redness, when I say rose is red, the redness or the smellness or whatever you call those attributes, they are not floating around in the air somewhere. They have an ashraya. There is a residence where they are all contained. There is a container. So logically, you are compelled to accept that there is some sort of container, but there is a container is not really different from what is contained in that, which is the qualities.
Correct.
Therefore, what you have two options now. You say that, one of them is vyavahara. You talk as if there is that. You talk as if there is difference, or you talk as if there is identity. But in truth, only difference is there. Or in truth, only identity is there. These are the two options. One, which says there is only difference between the substance and qualities, but you talk as if there is identity. Another one is there is substance is identical to the qualities, but you treat as if they are different. Now, between these two things, there is a long argument on why we choose the latter. We say that there is the Bheda Vyavahara is there. You talk about it, you treat as if they are different, but in reality, they are identical. And this identity is not absolute identical, the way I have put over here. It is some sort of colorful identity. So we give it a different name. So in our in regular mathematical terms or computer science terms, right, when you say A is equal to B, that equal to operator is overloaded here. One is absolute identity, another one is Visesha enabled identity. So Visesha is a new ontological category. This ontological category is different from substance, dravya or guna. It is different. Now the Nyayikas also accept something called as Visesha. Okay, but that Visesha is different from our Visesha. For them, see, for example, Antyavayivi, they call that thing as Antyavayivi. When you try to keep dividing the substance, you will reach a state where it is further unbreakable.
Unbreakable, yeah.
That is atom. That's what they call as Paramanu or whatever it is. Right. Now, how do you distinguish one Paramanu from another Paramanu? So they say, okay, this Paramanu has certain Visesha, this Paramanu has certain Visesha. That is Nayayika's definition of Visesha. But that has got nothing to do with our Visesha, whatever we want to put over here. So what we are saying is our Visesha is different. Okay. So therefore, we say that there is identity between substance and qualities. Okay. But there is Bheda Vyavahara also, which means that you treat as if there is Bheda. And that Bheda Vyavahara is enabled by Visesha. If there is Visesha acting, there is Bheda there. Now, this Visesha is not something that we have conjured or something like that. This is what presents to us in our real life. There is no way you can get out of this conundrum other than putting this kind of Visesha. And I mean, I am intentionally not getting into the details of that argument, right? There is something called as Bheda also.
Correct.
Right? So why is that the solution? That also will need to assume that there is some sort of Visesha which enables Bheda Vyavahara when there is Abheda. So we'll therefore.
Can I ask you a question here?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So it's something which I just cannot ignore. I have to take it. if Visesha explains away a Vyavaharika Bheda, right? Then you are arguing like Shankara.
Okay. Yeah, 1 minute. I'll answer that one. So what is the Visesha operating between? What kind of Vyavahara is what Bheda Vyavahara we are trying to talk here? We are talking about the Bheda Vyavahara as if the substance is different from the attributes. We are not saying they are false. We are not saying the attribute is false. We are not saying the Bheda Vyavahara is false. We are not undermining that Vyavahara. All we are saying is that Vyavahara is happening because of a different ontological category called Visesha. If I had said there is nothing like an attribute or there is nothing like a Visesha, I mean real one, right? Then I think you are right in putting us both on the same ground. But here the concepts are vastly different, right? I am not saying Vyavahara for you implicitly gives a notion of, some sort of temporary reality. I mean, till you get Brahmajnana, this Vyavahara is there. That's not the meaning of Vyavahara here. Vyavahara is you transact, you deal with it, you treat it as if there is difference. Okay? And it is not, as if difference does not mean it is false difference. Again there. It is whenever Visesha is there, Bheda Vyavahara, real Bheda Vyavahara is possible. That is the idea there. Where how you enable Vyavahara versus how you enable the actual thing. So the difference is, in case of the identity is real, Bheda is also explained, but only at the Vyavahara level. That is how we should look at the Visesha. And since none of them are false, I think there is a lot of difference between this and whatever is told in the Advaitha Siddhanta about Maya and all those other, about Vyavahara being real, unreal from a Paramarthika point of view. Those things do not apply here. So therefore, our we require that Visesha be Visesha is a fundamentally different ontological category compared to a Dravya or a Guna or a Karma. And thereon, we will basically put this thing as to many cases there. See here, right? For example, what is the thing between his Bhagawaan and his Guna? What is the relation? We say it is Sa Visesha Abheda. Right? Guna, Ananda, Bala, this thing, Sa Visesha Abheda. Kriya, Srishtyadik, all the acts like creation, right? Again, it is Sa Visesha Abheda. See what happens in case of the, Maya Vaada, or if you take any other Siddhanta, right? They have to posit a difference between the creator and the act of creation. I'm not talking about the created. I'm talking about the act of creation. How is the act of creation superimposed on the creator? If it is different, you will have to say that. Right. But what we are saying here, it is not different. It is Sa Visesha Abheda is there. God moving my hand, moving his hand is the movement, the act of movement is identical to him, but it's not like absolute identity. It is Sa Visesha Abheda is there.
Got it.
So this is how we have solved many problems. I mean, if you think deeper about these things, right, you will realize that this is a very fundamental philosophical problem, right? I mean, you will eventually, for example, right, let's say I am in another system like a Nyaya or a Visishta Advaita where the Guna is different from the Guni. Okay, Lord is there, his Ananda is there. You will call this, they call this thing as Swarupa Guna, or you will call all of that, right? But if I ask, okay, is the God different from this Swarupa Bhuta Guna, right? Or Swabhava Guna? Is it Swabhavika Guna? Is it different or not different? They will have to be philosophically, they have to admit that they are different. The moment you say they are different, now am I worshipping the Ananda or the person who is having the Ananda? What is there then here on this side? So it is, the deeper you think about this is, especially for realistic philosophies, this is a very deep problem.
Correct.
And it is not just in case of Bhagavan and his Guna. The same questions come for even, yeah. The
Ordinary.
same questions come for Jiva and his this thing. That's what I wanted to show here, right? See, Jiva and his this thing also, right? Or say, take a simple thing like apple. Even there, you will get into these issues. Okay. Now, yeah. So this is how the original model is. Okay. I will go back a couple of slides. Okay. These are the thing about a Jiva also. Jiva and his Ananda are both one and the same. Now, it becomes easier for us to understand how the Shruti operates. For example, if the Shruti says, right, Anandam Brahmano Vidwan, it is doing Bheda Vyavahara. Where Brahman has Ananda, it is doing Bheda Vyavahara. When it is saying Anandam Brahma, it is very clear. It is telling you that there is, what do you call, identity. So both are acceptable and both are explicable using something called as Visesha. Okay. In fact, in Bhagavata, right, you will find there is one episode. I think Krishna is going back to Dwaraka after the war, the Kurukshetra war. And there, now that, or some other case, I don't remember exactly when. So he has now a lot of time to do a peaceful Sandhya Vandana. That's what Bhagavata says. So now that he has more time on his hands, he does a lot of dhyana on himself. In that context, the Purana tells us that, he meditated on his swalakshana, on his inherent characteristic to create the world. So unlike what Mayavada says, creation is not a tatastha lakshana. It is not an accidental or a superimposed attribute. As the point to create is his swabhava. Anyway, the Upanishad has told us this thing. Devasyaisha swabhavoyam aptakamasya kaspruha. Manduka Upanishad has told us that. So the same thing is told in the Bhagavata Purana also, and it says it is his swarupa. Very important point, right? So the act of creation is his swarupa. Now the act is temporary. The creator is permanent. How do you do this thing? So that is the Bheda Vyavahara coming in there. We say that, in the potency, there is something called as Shakti, which is another ontological category. Okay. And that potency explains the presence of the act. But when it becomes Vyakta, when it becomes manifest, that is when it changes its states from Shakta to Vyakta, that's when it manifests to us. Okay. So the act, the Kriya is Nitya even in Bhagawaan. Okay. It is just that it has different states. Because one is Shakta, another one is Vyakta. But they are Swarupa Lakshana. They are Swarupa Bhuta. They are inherent to his nature. They are inherent to him. He and his acts of creation are not different. So same thing goes to Avyayas also, right? Avayava also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the hands and legs and things like that. So that is why in Bhagavata again, or in Vishnu Purana, right, you will find that when all these devatas go and ask the Lord to help them, deal with the demons, he will just pluck 2 hairs from this thing as if they're, this thing, and he'll say they will come and solve your problem. So one is a black hair, another one is a white hair, and that's what took avatar as Krishna and Balarama, right? And they were able to do the Asura Samhara. Now this hair is also able to show a Vishwarupa of its own later, right? So which means that his Ananda, his hair, his Avayava, everything is same as whatever is there in the in the each part of it. So he's a homogeneous whole is one point, and each point in him or is equal to every other part, or is not in fact even identical. So there it goes beyond our logic. It becomes achintya if you really look at it, right? I mean, his face is there. His face is identical to his leg. How? Through Sa Visesha Abheda only. But how does it work? We do not know. So there we say you have to we'll say that we cannot. We'll tell what the pramanas are telling. Beyond that, you will have to wait for him to help you with experience that thing. And we'll understand these things only in moksha and little bit before that in the after aproksha. Till then, you have to go by what the pramanas tell without undermining any pramana. You can't say this pramana is for the dim-witted guys, they will. It is meant to elevate them, and is for no. I mean, there are
No,
people who kind of
I,
strategy.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I agree that from where you're coming from, and this is very commonly used, particularly in Advaita circles. So I understand your viewpoint.
Himself,
In a way, the argument is correct, right? See, instead of saying that beyond this we cannot explain, we must leave it to him to make us understand. Instead of saying that, frankly speaking, what you're saying is that's just a notional. The part being as potent as the whole implies, you can infer from that, the difference is very notional. For your sake only, you're saying leg, hair, he pulled his hair. These are all done to make you understand the point. Otherwise, it's like saying a big fire is there, right? A spark.
Uh,
He does the same thing as a big fire. You want to call it as a spark because it's smaller in size. But frankly, that's also fire.
No, that is exactly our argument. The difference is when people say that the scripture that tells you about differences between you and him are secondary. They are relegated. They are meant for the limited or whatever it is. That is where there is an epistemological problem there. It is not to do with ontology. It is to do with epistemology. How do you determine which Shruti is meant for dimwits and which Shruti is meant for the wise people, right? Why not the other way around? I mean, because you do not know the nature of final reality, the epistemological problem is there. Anyway, we'll come to that thing later. I mean, without getting into further argument, let's, I think, go further. There is, I think, more. I'll tell you where this thing becomes important, right? See, for example, take the Taittiriya Upanishad, right? Taittiriya Upanishad is very clear that it refers to the five, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, that the entire five koshas are there.
Yes.
Now, it refers to each of them as Brahma. Okay? And it refers to each of them as, and then also it says Anandamaya is there, right? Moda Dakshina Paksha, all those things it says, the right hand is the Moda, Pramoda is the Uttara Paksha, all those things it will mention.
Correct.
Then it says Anandam Brache Pratishtitham, right? And Ananda is there at the bottom or at the leg or whatever. I mean, we treat it as the, at the, as the base, okay, as the foundation, Ananda is there. So the entire Anandamaya Rupa is there. Now each of them is Brahma, and the word is called, the foundation is called, which is called Pucha, is called, what do you call, Brahma.
Correct.
Now entire Advaitic theory is that only that is Brahma, nothing else is Brahma. Okay. Our thing is that is also Brahma, this is also Brahma, everything is Brahma, whichever has been referred by Brahma. Why? Because the Shruti has used that word. Annam Brahmet Vyajanat, right? It gives everything as Brahma, Brahma, Brahma. Pranam Brahmet Vyajanat. It says this prana is Brahma, Anna is Brahma, Vijnanam is Brahma, Anandam Brahma. It says everything is Brahma. So that is where we say it helps us. Because then the question is, what? If you look at the Taittiriya Upanishad's progression, right? It basically, it says Annamaya is there. Annamaya, let's say this is the external body, right? This is Annamaya. And then almost covered by that is the next one, which is I think it is Pranamaya, right?
Pranamaya.
Now, for us, it says Anyo Antaraha. It says there is another one which is inside that. This is Bheda Vyavahara. So for us, both are Brahma, and also this Bheda Vyavahara, Anyo Antaraha can be fit there.
I know that is where many times I feel Tattvavadis want to play on both sides of the table.
Or we are basically
they
giving
want the difference also, they want the identity also. That is why they introduce Sa Visesha Abheda as a kind of a magical glue, which can fit whenever you want, you fit as identity, whenever you want, it acts to differentiate.
No, and the main point is that it is not something that if you don't admit that, right, then you will have to play the judge between the two Shrutis. You will have to say only I know that Shruti, that Anandam Brahma Puche Pratishthitam, that is the real one. The rest of the ones are meant for the dumb-witted. You are basically playing judge over Shruti there. We want to avoid that situation.
But so are you. I mean, to be fair, so are you. When you introduce a concept which is not prevalent in the Shruti, to explain a Shruti. You're playing de facto, you're playing the judge of Shruti anyway.
The other way around. We are deriving the concept from Shruti. We are saying that, okay, both these parts of the Shruti are equally valid for us. Now, how do you explain this kind of both difference and identity? So, I mean, that's why I will go back, right?
Okay.
And let's remove Shruti for the time being. If I remove Shruti, I'll go back to my previous questions. I need to be able to say what exactly is the relation. So this is independent of the Shruti. To explain the world, I need to have something which says that I need an ontologically something which is able to explain difference like behavior when there is not really any difference. That is where you are compelled, even if you, let's say I ignore Shruti also. I dump Shruti. Let's say we dumped all of the Shruti. I am a Christian, or I am I'm a Buddhist, or whatever it is. Even me, I will be forced to admit something like this because that is what explains the world around me. Otherwise, it is we'll go the Advaitha. We'll say one of them is false. We'll say either it is all a group of qualities floating around in the air. I mean, it's all qualia, and there is nothing really concrete there. Or we will say that there is only one substance and everything else is, all the qualities are false. Both of them are again, pratyaksha viruddha. They are against our universal experience.
Can I hold you on to that point and dig a little deeper?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Let us take color. You say green color, red color, blue color, yellow color, they are all different. But I say green color is a frequency, red color is a frequency, yellow color is frequency.
Very good.
It is a frequency. That's it. Because
that's
human eyes see differently. Animal eyes may see very, very differently also. Right? So frequency as a fruit entity is identical, no different. For Vyavaharic purposes, because your lens is different from the bird lens and cat's lens, each of you may see it differently. Therefore, the difference lies more in your lens rather than in the frequency.
Yeah, there is a simple point for this. See, when you say there are two possibilities, right? This, for example, this what this color is, but let's say this is orange for the time being, whatever I'm putting on right now, right? Now, is the orange color in my mind or it is actually there on the cloth?
Orange as a definition is in your mind.
Okay. So there is some light that is coming in there,
Correct,
which has a wavelength, and my mind is interpreting that as orange color.
Correct.
The wavelength part is true, no? That is not created by my mind, right?
No, it does not.
So what we are differing is only on the definition there. What we are saying is this one truly has something which will give a person of my receptory capabilities to say this is orange.
Correct.
There is nothing false or illusory over here.
The terminology called orange is illusory.
It is not illusory, it is just a term. For example,
it has no intrinsic value other than what you ascribe to it, right? Because
no. Let's not call it orange. Let's call it mango. That's not the point there. The point is that there is a quality that is truly out there, and the substance actually possesses that. This one actually possesses that. I may call this thing orange, and in the previous day I will call it. I mean, if you take it to a lady, she may call it dark mustard or something like that, and not truly orange. And somebody more familiar with the colors, they will even be able to tell you the RGB combination that actually gives you this color. I mean, that part is different, but at the end of it, there is something out there, right? The wavelength, which is true, which is not created by my mind. Now, what label I give to that mind is different. It is similarly a green, what we call as green, its wavelength is different from the wavelength that an orange thing has. So we may call the words, I mean, we are not stuck on those words. We are trying to say that there is actual difference. Let's say the difference between the wavelengths. So we are not, our lens or whatever you are saying is only in actually attributing a particular word to it, attributing a name, label to it. But the difference is there. The actual difference is there in those substances and their attributes. So with that, if I may go, right, therefore, my point is we are not trying to create anything here. We are trying to judge from whatever is our universal experience, and then say there is something called as Visesha. And based on that Visesha, I say that, this Bhagawaan and his gunas, they are all Sa Visesha Abheda is there. Sa Visesha Abheda is there between them. And that is how I will be able to explain. Without relegating one part of the Shruti against the other, I am able to accept all of that Shruti on their face value, or on their inherent strength, and be able to accept that. There is other pramana also for that, right? For example, in Kathopanishad, it says, Evam dharman pratak pashyan, right? If anybody sees Paramatma and his gunas as different, as separable, right? They will fall as if the way water falls from a mountain. So it is, or yaha naneva pashyati, whoever sees multitude in this, right? When you say multitude in him, okay? I mean that it is not general multiplicity. That Shruti is talking about iha naneva pashyati. Iha is the thing that has been referred, which is Parabrahma. Whoever sees multiplicity in the Parabrahma, which means that Parabrahma is there, and something other than Parabrahma is also not there, is also there in him, which is not Parabrahma. If you see differences, then it warns us of serious consequences. So because of that, Shruti is also telling us that you need to see them as identical. And it also understands that, that is also an indication that the identity is real, okay, is the true thing, and the Bheda is only the Vyavahara. Otherwise, it would have reversed its dictum. It wouldn't have said, yaha naneva pashyati, or yaha pruthak dharman pashyan sa adho gacchati, or whatever, right? It would have reversed that particular instruction. Now, because of this, we say that Visesha is an absolute necessary, both from universal experience and from when you try to, harmonize these different type of Shrutis. And the same thing applies to Mukti Yogya Jiva and even Jadas also, to the insentient things. Now, within Jada, there is a little bit of difference. You have two types of things. One where the qualities change even when the substance has not changed, right? For example, the apple changes its color from green to red and so on and so forth. And in the case of appleness itself, right, that is a Yavat Dravya Bhavi. So there are differences here that you can see. The relation between that particular substance and the nature of the other term, which is the guna or whatever it is different based on whether they are Yavat Dravya Bhavi or Ayavat Dravya Bhavi. I will just this is only when you go into the details, when you get into Tattva Viveka, you will get these differences. And with that, there was one more thing which I think I mentioned last time also. This is the thing. It is the Vishesha is not just for substance and qualities. It is for actions also, whole and part, cause and effect, class and in instance, change and the change. We talked about the ship of Theseus in the last discussion, if you remember, right? If there is a boat, is there a ship wherein I have changed only one part. Is the ship new or same old one? So this thing would be, it is Bheda is there. That is what we would have told there. And this is what you see on the left is the thing in the there in the Tattva Viveka. With that, I will like to quickly put one small point, and so that
before you go there, one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why are you by implication at least are you suggesting that Tattva Viveka is the ontological primer as well as for Tattva Vaada? Is it what you're trying to say?
Tattva Sankhyana and then Tattva Viveka are important. They both help you understand these things. But Acharya's arguments are spread across his works. For example, in Brihadaranyaka Bhashya, in Gita Tatparya, and of course in Anuvyakhyana, he gives the arguments for accepting Visesha. And I am not able to get all of that thing to you. I think you really need to spend some time with a real qualified teacher and not me, right? You will be able to get more details there. If you go through the detail argument there, he has presented it much better than what any of us can. And but anyway, to give you a hint, that's what Visesha is about.
The question I asked was for the benefit of readers. You may want to readers may want to classify. I mean, I don't know whether it's the right thing to do, but for my point of view, I'm saying Sarvamoola Grantha, maybe, I don't know, 33. How many are mentioned in Sarvamoola Granthas totally?
37 is commonly known, but there are some 2-3 others which are also.
Right. Yeah, 37 to 40, whatever it is. The point is, you may want to classify them as those set of books which provide you interpretation of various other books like Shrutis and Vedas and Upanishads. How do you interpret? And there are some group of books which talk about what should you do as an individual, right? How do you lead your life? What are the moral codes for you? What are ethical codes for you? How do you do your bhakti? How do you do your kriya? And if you are just a grihastha, what do you do? If you're a sannyasi, what do you do? These are all guidebooks which are there. And there is yet another class of books which is more metaphysical in nature, which talks about some of the fundamental concepts and building blocks which are necessary for us to understand who we are, what is this universe out there, what is the relationship, what is the concept of Ishvara, why should there be a concept of Ishvara, why should there be liberation at all. These are all small. This is a lot more fundamental in nature, in the sense it's not connected to any very specific Vedas or Shrutis or whatever, though it draws from that. This is very important for readers to viewers to understand, because you may want to try to go there and see, what is this? What is ontology? Ontology. Why did Krishna spend so much time on epistemology? Why? What are those books, etc.? That is where, to some extent, there is a difficulty here, because it's not that Tattva Sankyanam, Tattva Viveka is where he put all those things. It's not like that. Though it contains most of it, as he argues from his point of view, very many Upanishads or other Veda Vyakhyas, etc., he goes on introducing certain new concepts. It's not as if there is a new concept that's come in let us say, in Bhagavata Tattva Nirnaya or Mahabharata Tattva Nirnaya. He's not going back and then correcting his, adding into his Tattva Viveka, Tattva. He's not doing that. That hard work, that labor, we have to do. And like Krishna was pointing out, we cannot do because we don't know what those 35 to 40 books are. And we don't have the ability to understand either. And therefore, it becomes very important to sit with a very, very learned scholar like Haridas Bhattji and others who have completely gone through it multiple number of years, who can explain to us. The idea is not that you have to sit in front of a scholar so that he can indoctrinate you. That is not the intention. Indoctrination is not the intention. The intention of the recommendation is it is spread across in so many different things. It's very hard. Among the various people, it's very hard to understand Madhvacharya because he is extremely brief in words, sentences. He just points out. Therefore, it becomes important to go through a person who has reconciled those concepts with multiple views expressed in multiple occasions and multiple discussions, and then harmonize them and say, this is what he means. That's why Krishna says that part out of humility and part out of necessity also, that you have to sit with the very, very good scholars. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I thought I would add this point because viewers do send me some messages saying that, hey, can I understand this better and all this stuff? And I do see that quite a few, handful at least, of Advaitis also go through it and they reach out to me saying that this is very interesting and all the stuff. So I thought I laid it out there.
Thank you. So I think, if you remember, right, we took a detour from the Visesha concept before I go into the ontology, right? And the first thing that hits us in the ontology is the Taratamya. So we will talk about the Taratamya, and so Vishnu is the supreme being, and that we know only from the Veda. It is not because we feel nice about it. It is not because we are Vaishnavas that we see it like that. It's the other way around. Because Vedas tell us that Vishnu is the supreme, we are Vaishnavas. It is right. So the idea is that we will come to this thing, and when we talk about this in the next thing, we will consider other positions. Why can't we say that there are? How do we even know that there are multiplicity of gods, right? Maybe there is only one, right? I mean, we said that there is only one swatantra that is needed. So there is only one swatantra category. Why do you need these? Why do you need to admit that there are other gods? Answer again is that the Shruti, the Veda tells us that there are gods. The plural yo devanam namadha eka eva, yo deveshu adhi eka eva, something like that, right? So adhideva eka eva. So when it says that there are multiplicity of gods, and within that there is one person who is the supreme most, one being who is the supreme. Now we will discuss these things later. Why can't we have other models to explain that? There are also Vedic statements which tell us that they are all same kind of thing. Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti, right? That is one of the very commonly used phrases. So we will see how Tattvada interprets those, and why it is essential to interpret in that manner only and not in the manner which which most people would like to believe. We will come to that later. All I'm just saying is that we are not trying to be sectarian or secular or either of them. We are trying to be true to the Shrutis, and whatever the Pramanas tells us, we will analyze that, and then we will create we will understand the theory based on that particular evidence, not the other way around. So that's the point we will try to keep seeing as we go in the next session. With that, Madhvesha Krishna Arpamastu.
Yeah. So thank you, Krishna. I think there are two takeaways we can summarize in the end. One is Visesha as a marker of attribute is not the way it is used here. Is something which Krishna was at pains to explain, that the way the Visesha is used, the term Visesha is used here, that's very important for us to understand. It's more like a glue which is used to, magical glue which is used to explain seemingly or apparent contradictions in certain positions. So that is where I think it is being used, is what he was trying to explain, because Visesha is being used several different ways with several different people. So this is how Tattvada used Visesha is one thing. Another interesting thing is Sa Visesha Abheda is a very unique way of arguing about the differences. That is also another important point which he brought out today, and we may want to spend some time thinking about it, researching about it, and then reaching out to Krishna if you have any questions. But at the same time, I request all of you, he is extremely overloaded. He's doing multiple things for our sake. So it's very, I know, now I have to read a Sa Visesha Abheda to even explain my own statement. Approach him and yet don't approach him is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But please, spend time reading yourself, understanding yourself. I'm very sure whichever city you are living, there are Madhva scholars, and every mata has got at least one good scholar. That much I know, because among the various matas which I know, among Iyengar's matas or Iyer's matas or Madhva matas, I've seen Madhvas tend to put enormous stress on achieving scholarship over the text which is available around. That seems to be the case, because in one of the Kashi recently, a couple of years back, I think in Kashi annually there is a function. I mean, there's a Vakyartha kind of thing happens, and I have seen a very young person who is a 16, 17-year-old lad, I would call, teenager, was talking so eloquently, and then the panelists, the judges, most of them were actually Advaitas, frankly speaking, Smartas, and they were so impressed and amused, and they were encouraging to speak more and more. Yeah, so that such things are available. So I would appeal to all the viewers, irrespective whether you are a Madhva, Iyengar or Smarta or whatever, please go reach out to Madhva scholars. There are plenty of them willing to teach. One thing you will find is Madhva scholars are very humble, extremely humble. Of course, they will have pride in Narayana. Of course, they will think Madhvacharya is the only right go and everybody is wrong. I'm very sure they will have it. Every respective scholars would feel so, but they are extremely humble, extremely humble. They're happy to teach. I'd request you to take courage. Go there. I know we're all panchadwalas. We don't have shikha and all the stuff. That's all true. But they are willing to, some of them are at least, most of them are at least able to overlook all that. And if you're sincere and humble, they will teach. So with that, I think, thank you, Krishna. Once again, thank you for your time. And I'm once again sorry for taking too much of time. We started this only a half a dozen episodes, and it's going on and on. Thank you for your continued interest, your continued willingness to invest effort to make us understand. Thank you very much. Namaskar.